Hello and welcome to this week's online coaching questions. I've got 3 for you. First one is eating all your calories or macros when dieting. This was asked from somebody who's recently just started tracking calories. Question number 2 is how do we return back to training after a period of time of being ill? That was from one of my clients. And then tracking number 3. Question number 3 is tracking progress over the off season, and that was from somebody via social media. So I'm now about to go through these 3 questions. Eating all your daily macros or calories, depending on the level of which you're tracking. So if you have a target to eat 2,000 calories, should you eat all of those 2,000 calories within that day? How about if you get to 1,800 and you're not feeling hungry? Well, personally, this will come down to the person. And when I start coaching somebody, I will always want them to kind of eat that day's worth of calories or macronutrients. I don't want them holding back and eating 1,800 for one day, 1,800 for the next day. And it's like, oh yeah, this diet thing is really good, because what that may be is that all those little 200 calories short they may then lose adherence and end up binging later on in the week. So I prefer, if I set a calorie goal or macro goal, is initially to have clients eating as close to that as possible and not like backing anything up. I always work off the weekly average, and 9 times out of 10 that is going to be the most important thing for most people in most situations. The only time it probably isn't the complete defining thing is when you're looking at daily and you've got somebody very deep into prep. So with the weekly average, you're like, well, in time you can potentially eat 200 calories lower for 3 or 4 days to allow you to have more calories on another day. It's a really good tool to use to accommodate for social situations, or if you're somebody who tends to eat out more at the weekends, so you just want those extra calories versus in the week where you can be a bit more controlled and restrained, then that's fine. But initially I always get people to eat as close to their calorie or macro target, just so we can establish a base before we build upon that, and also we can establish good solid adherence. I don't want them under eating for a period of days and then binging, under eating, when I know that actually if they were to eat all those 2,000 calories, if they were to use those extra 200 calories that they're telling me that they can't eat, and then when I say, well, just fill it up with a chocolate bar or something, like, oh yeah, I can do that, but then they've had a chocolate bar every night of the week. They've reached the 200 calories, their scale and their measurements are then dropping, while this person who's dieting they're loving life, and they're going to then stick to this. Whilst if they're going from day to day feeling like they're missing out, and that maybe they're not implementing something as simple as a 200 calorie chocolate bar, and I'm not saying a 200 calorie chocolate bar fixes it for everybody, it doesn't, but when people are like, oh wow, it really opens up that it's not restrictive, you've just got to eat the calories. So it just keeps longer adherence for that person, and we can then see how that's affecting their weight, and then we know where we can kind of push and pull calories. And also, if they need to be flexible, if we know 2,000 calories per day is where they need to be, then we can use that as a weekly average to give them more flexibility by restricting on certain days and increasing on others. So personally, when I start coaching somebody, I will have them hit their targets as close as possible before I kind of let them be more flexible. Returning to the gym after being ill. Well, I'm not sure where you are, but around this area we have had a lot of illness over the last month or two, and it's affected a lot of people, and there's been a lot of people who have probably had a good week or two away from the gym. This isn't planned, this isn't a deload, and it's a point where your body's actually got the stress of dealing with an illness. Whatever's been going around has probably been putting people in bed for a good day or two, and then they've been feeling pretty groggy for a good week around that. So when it comes to going back to the gym, you can't expect to be exactly where you were when you left off. So you can't expect to go into the gym and hit the exact same numbers. Part of this is the fact that what you've achieved, if you're not performing the same all the time, you're not providing that same stimulus, things are going to slowly detrain. And also, your body, you haven't been in a state of rest. Your body hasn't been recovering in terms of muscularity. It's been recovering as in fighting something that's in the body. I'm no doctor, but being ill or having a cold or the flu is a big stress to your body, and your body is going to be going into overtime trying to fight that off. So when you finally get back to the gym, I always tell people, don't come back as soon as you're feeling a little bit good. Feel really good, and maybe on those first 2 or 3 days, just go out and just go for a walk, just do something very lightly active and see how things are. Then as you come into the gym, remember, your strength isn't going to be where it left off. And also, you don't know what that cold or flu has wiped out of you. And although you may be feeling good, you might get into a couple of sets in and you might feel wiped, because that illness might still be in your body. Although you are feeling better and your body's kind of fought it, it's still there to a degree. So it can take a little bit of time, and you may not be right up to your training levels and what you're used to. So be patient, kind of potentially come in with a bit of a deload approach. So a good 10-20% under. Don't have to go for your high-end reps, keep them low. Haven't got to go for all your sets, maybe knock 1 or 2 sets off. So it's more progress easy, so you can train and you're probably still on that tail end of recovery, and your training is going to increase. And then in time, you're going to be able to work up, probably over a good week or two, you're going to be able to work up to those numbers that you had previous. So biggest thing is just don't rush it. Don't try and be the hero, because if you come into the gym, you're too high a risk of either injuring yourself or finding out that actually your body's still fighting this and it could completely wipe you out. Another thing is stress, be it a training stress, be it your body fighting an illness. Stress is stress. Your body only has one way to deal with stress. So another reason, don't think, oh, it's nothing. Progress slow. We've got to think training in terms of long term, and a week or 2 missed is not massive on the grand scale of things. Tracking progress in the off season. So for most people, the off season is going to be a long period of time. There may be a mini cut here and there, but to me, a mini cut is you're still in the off season. So with that in mind, an off season can be very broad. You may be looking over a year, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. So how do we track that? Well, we have to zoom out and look at it as a big picture. It's not all about the day, possibly not even all about the week. It's probably all about months, or even just looking at whole training cycles in terms of lift progression, and also in terms of where your body weight and where your calories are heading. So once you've got yourself into an off season and you are gaining weight at a rate that is appropriate to you, so let's just say for an intermediate lifter, you're looking probably about 1.5 pound per month would be a really lean gain. And so if you're trying to keep things down that low, then that's not, that's about a stone over the course of a year. That's not a lot of weight gain. So you're not going to pick that up on the scale on your weekly averages at 0.25 pound per weekly average. There's going to be lots of variables. If there's one thing that dieting is, dieting controls all the variables. You are to the gram. You are a lot more aware of everything you're doing. Whilst when you're in an off season, I believe there is and probably should be a bigger level of flexibility. Eating out, guesstimating, even eating instinctively. Once you've dieted for so long and once you've tracked macros for so long, I believe truly in the off season, you should be at a point where you can kind of look at food and be like, That's about 40 grams of protein, 100 grams of carbs, and about X amount of fat. You shouldn't need to always be so on the dot. So there's that bigger level of flexibility. You're going to have social events. Chances are, being in the off season, you're probably going to enjoy them a little bit more, because you know that the goal of standing on stage in your underwear, covered in tan, isn't going to kind of be there to kind of make you think, actually, I probably need to, track everything that I eat at this buffet, at this wedding, at this birthday party. Same thing, most people are going to go on holiday. And I think most people, when they go on holiday, there's an element of eating and drinking. So because the off-season has more flexibility, you might see your weight might come up quite quick. Maybe you'll be all-inclusive on holiday, you might have gained a couple of pounds, but once you come home, just your instinctive eating on what you normally eat might bring you back down. So you're very much looking at trends over the year. So you just want to make sure that progress in the gym, scale weight is trending in the direction that you want it to, at the rate you want it to. If you've gone into a gaining phase and you're gaining like 4 pounds a week, you know you're going to be very fat very quickly. And therefore, you probably need to just pull something back or get some increased energy expenditure, which I wouldn't be adding into an off-season. So you'd want to be pulling back on the diet front. Obviously, saying that, if you're in an off-season and your weekly average has stayed the exact same, if you're weighing in at 190 pounds and you have done for the last 3 months, then you need to question yourself, are you laying down muscle tissue? Maybe if your gym performance is going up, maybe if you've taken pictures and you can see that you are actually laying down muscle and you have therefore cracked the amazing art of perfect lean gaining, then awesome. But chances are, if that weight's not creeping up over especially a couple of months, you know that you probably need to just bump your intake up ever so slightly. So the main thing is the fact that the off season is a very long period of time. You need to kind of zoom out, look at the broad picture. So if you are gaining at a slower rate, so that you're ideally favouring muscle gain over excessive fat gain, make sure that you are trending in the right direction and at the correct weight. Thank you very much for listening there, people. I hope you found that information helpful. If you've got any questions, drop in the comments. Got a coaching question? Drop those in the comments and I will see you next week.